So I'm continuing on the greenhouse project. In this video I will be completing the project, I'd imagine. I've got this piece of sheathing up, and I'm working over here to finish out the bottom of these windows. That was where I lost my drill bit last time. So once I've got the windows framed, I will be able to finish the sheathing, build the door, add some roof supports up here, and at that point I'll be able to caulk seams and paint with the paint sprayer, and then I'll be able to put the windows and door and roof in. So that is the agenda. So the last of those bottom pieces are in. That means the window framing is all completed. Now I'm going to move on to the door and this side piece, and the I don't know if you can see, I'm going to put in additional roof or ceiling support between these angled pieces, and that'll be where the polycarbonate sheets screw down. So I've had these tempered glass shower doors behind that shed over there for about 10 years now. 8-10 years. I guess we've had the house only 9 years, but anyway, had them out there for a long time. Just grabbed them at a cleanup day. Somebody was pitching them, so I knew I would be doing something like this with them. I'm going to join them in the middle with pieces of wood and trim out the ends in wood, and then that's going to be the greenhouse door. I don't know if I'm going to paint the aluminum black or what to match the windows. The windows actually are silver behind the paint, but you know, it is a greenhouse, so I'm not super worried about the aesthetic. But anyhow, I'm going to get to making a door here. What I'm doing right now is I've joined the two sections from the sides with screws to this piece of wood. The stuff I've already got here is working out. Actually, these I didn't even need to cut. 3 of them were perfectly fitting. This is 6 foot. Those must have been 2 foot trim offs. So what I'm going to do now is sink some screws into these. I might have to drill a few pilot holes. I'm going to do the same on the other side, and then I'm going to build some cross bracing on the back side of the door to keep it secured. And it's almost a perfect fit for the opening there. That's 73 inches. This is 72. So I'll just need to trim out the top a little bit with a piece of wood. I think what I'll do at the bottom is get a piece of straight steel or angle iron or something and kind of angle this, or drill holes through it, and use that to brace the wood. Same thing at the top. You know, I'll probably have some wood in there to create that gap, or to bridge that gap. But hope this is making sense. So right now I'm just trying to get this door kind of basically set up. And that is a solid door right there. So I'll easily be able to add a little furring strip to the bottom and top to get it 73 inches exactly to match the opening over there. But just lifting it up. It's a heavy door. It's a solid door. So I'm going to get some strong hinges. I'll have to think about how I'm going to actually hinge it. If a 2x4 is going to be strong enough, or if I'm going to have to hinge it from the other side. I'd kind of like to... I might actually take that piece of sheathing down, because I'd kind of like to hinge it off of a 4x4 post. So I might put the door on the left side. I have to consider that. So another interesting thought I had would be to get some strong struts and have it open, you know, almost like a hatch, like the hatch on the back of the bus. But that's probably a little more complicated. I'm overcomplicating it. So I think I'll just maybe double up some 2x4s to make them stronger for where I'm going to hinge it. Alright, and there's a view of the door flipped around. I'm going to paint the wood the same green color, and I may decide to paint the aluminum casing black to match the windows. I have to think about that. I do have some black paint laying in there, but may just leave it alone. I'm not sure. Anyhow, feel pretty accomplished. I think it turned out to be a pretty solid door for about 40 minutes worth of work. Alright, so I had a 2x6. It's not pressure treated, but it's going to be sort of under roof. Had that in the garage. And I've got one screw in it. I'm going to dry fit the door, make sure that my marks are right and the door fits. If so, I'll get the other screws sunk, and then I'm going to put a 2x4 behind it, going from the top beam there all the way down for extra strength. And then the back side of that will hold the sheathing as well, so it should work out pretty nicely. Alright, so what I figured out is I may need to shave a sock turf off. You can even see it right there. This one's a little blood in the project. This one's a little bit sticking out, and it's catching a little bit in the middle. But if I clean that up, then that's in a good spot. So I'm going to go ahead and get it fastened. Now I've got that piece in behind the 2x6. I'll put some more 2x6 in from what I trimmed in there, just to kind of fill that in. And it'll also serve to kind of trim this paneling when I put the paneling in at 27¼ wide for the paneling. But that's kind of what if you can see, that's what it looks like. Got it extra strong there, so hopefully that'll be a solid mount for the door hinges. Okay, I'm out here working by headlamp. I've got the first of the roof stringers in on the brackets, and then I've got the other brackets in, so I got 2 more of these and I'll screw them in. So it's dark, but I got these 3 stringers up and screwed in. I used the corner bracing, and then I put 2 screws into the butt of each one from the other side. And then we've got the screw holes in the bracket here that on each side that hold the wood to the metal. So these are secure, and now we can put roof panels up. Here's a daytime view of the progress. Got the 3 stringers put in place here. So what I'm doing now is over here I'm cutting sheathing. First a piece for right there and that gap. Then I'll cut a piece for over the door. And then we'll get the sides done. We've got 3 at the bottom to do. And then we've got 2 at the top, this side and that side, triangular shaped. I ought to be able to cut most of that from one sheet. So there's that piece put in place. Need to trim out the top. Next I'm going to cut a piece for that opening. I have this piece trimmed to go over the door, and what I'm going to do now is lay out the exhaust fan on this piece in the center. I decided to put the exhaust fan over above the door just because it's shorter for electrical wiring from the garage. So, and also the space there can be strengthened to help make the door solid for closure. So putting a few extra supports in doesn't hurt. So anyhow, I'm going to get the fan laid out here for its opening. I got to go grab it from the garage and open the box and see what I'm dealing with. Okay, so I've opened the fan here. This is an iLiving thermo speed. It's temperature controlled. Got it off Amazon. This is the, let's see if you can turn it to the light here. It says 10-inch shutter exhaust fan. There's the model number right there. So I don't know if it's any good, but it was reasonably affordable. So we'll see how well it works. Temperature control on this is simply a plug-in style. So I'll just put a wall outlet inside. And probably have one outside too while I'm at it. And that will plug into the wall outlet, and then the fan will plug into this. So simple enough. I cantilevered this piece off after marking out the fan hole. Cantilevered it off with clamps on a cinder block. And then I did some plunge cuts with the circular saw. Now I'm going to catch the corners with this keyhole saw here, just to release that square. After that, I'll be able to rough this in place, and then I'm going to trim it with pieces to help anchor the fan solidly to the frame. And there's the fan, test fit into the hole. That worked just fine. So the next step here is to get this screwed up onto the greenhouse and then I'll rough it in with some, or reinforce it with some wooden pieces, 2x, probably leftover trimmings. So anyhow, I'm going to get out of here. So those pieces of wood are framing out the fan there, and we'll place the fan in there after I get the thing painted. So I think I'm moving on now to the bottoms and then the tops, and then we'll be ready to paint. Well, I might caulk before I paint. I have to think about it. Where I might do one coat of paint, then caulk, then paint again. I got to consider the process there. It's a beautiful day for painting, so I may want to get a coat on this. This piece of sheathing here on the bottom is clamped into place and ready to put screws in. First of the bottom pieces. Got the third piece clamped in place here. So we're going to get this screwed in, and then we'll cut smaller pieces for the gaps. Got 3 gaps to cover there. Then the last sheathing I have to do is going to be up here in the angular pieces, angular areas. Those will be a little more challenging because I need to notch for the stringers. So I got that piece cut and put in place to cover that gap. I'll go back and caulk the seams and edges here. Got a lot of cheap caulk. And now I'm going to do these 2 here. Take some measurements and fill those in with sheathing. So the bottom sheathing is on all 3 sides. Going around. And now I'm going to move on to the angled pieces up here on the top. Got to take some measurements. So these areas here, basically I've got to cut a diagonal in a rectangular piece, and it should actually be the same for both sides, just reversed. Okay, so at this point I've got all the sheathing up on both sides. You know, I quickly notched them, so I've got some air gaps that need a little caulk. You know, it is a greenhouse. I'm not trying to make the Taj Mahal here, so anyhow, that one's the worst. I've got to put a little scab of wood there to hold the caulk in. So it'll be all right though. Next step here is to finish putting the cross bolts in the corners. I've got to put a bolt going that way on each corner. So I'm going to drill those holes out and lag the bolts in, tighten the bolts, and then see if I have my tiger saw here. I can't remember if it's over at the other place or not. So I need to lop these posts off with a reciprocating saw. But after that, it's caulking and painting. So I got the last holes drilled for the through bolts here, up in all 4 corners. And so I'm going to put the bolts in, tighten those down. I'll put some trim pieces in on the outside, and then I'll be ready to caulk. So I have all the trim pieces put on the front here. This is pretty much ready to caulk and paint. I may want to continue the window frame lines up. That would actually be the best way to patch those daylight holes that need caulked. So I'll probably trim some 2x material down into the right size to make trim pieces there. And we'll do that on both sides. But those are the last bits of woodworking that need done. Everything else is caulking and painting and installing. Okay, and with the light fading here, I've got the top trim pieces done like that on both sides. So I am now definitely ready to caulk and then paint. So once the paint's dry, then I'll be able to put the roof on and add the windows and door. So that's the plan. So what I'm doing now is using this cheaper by the dozen caulk here and getting all the cracks in the greenhouse along the edges of the wood sealed up before I paint. The idea here is that I'd like it to be airtight as much as possible so it holds the maximum amount of heat. I may even go so far as to use some of the leftover insulation from the bus on the inside, although the paper backing might get moldy. So you know, I may be looking for different kind of insulation given the fact that I know I'll be spraying water inside. So I've used about 6 tubes of caulk so far. I'll definitely have enough. I've got the outside pretty well done except for the top. And then I'm going to go inside and selectively caulk some of the seams from inside as well. So it's coming along. I'll be probably putting a coat of paint on before the day's out. So I used about 11 tubes of caulk. And I did actually, I think, cover every crack and chink in this thing. The idea here is to reduce the amount of airflow out of the greenhouse when temperatures drop and it's already warm. So hopefully that is achieved. And I can paint once I've got a stretch of dry weather here. It's supposed to start raining. Otherwise I would have probably broken out the paint gun already. So what I'm doing right now is, before I put the windows in, I'm going to level out the dirt in here to a level just below the wood. And then I'm going to lay the old pool tarp here down as a barrier to prevent plants from growing up through the gravel. And then I'll be adding a layer of gravel in at the bottom, probably about to the level of where the door jamb is there. So with gravel, the drainage will happen easily. And hopefully that'll keep the wood from rotting with moisture. But right now I am going to dig all this out. I'm also going to throw some dirt out the door to bring that level up. Alright, so I'm slowly but surely getting this leveled out. I'm going to use a rake now for this loose stuff to kind of slide it over. Okay, after much back stressing labor here, I got this leveled out enough that I can lay the pool tarp over there on it and eventually bring in some gravel. Got to have a local yard supply place, landscape supply, bring me a truckload of gravel here. But looks like I'm about ready to paint here. Probably, I don't know if the weather will cooperate tomorrow or later in the week, but I got to check the forecast for rain here. But we're getting there. So I was able to grab this tarp and stuff it corner to corner, and this will act like a landscape fabric under the gravel. It should still allow drainage to percolate here, but it also will block weeds and raspberry bushes like those that happen to be growing here before from coming up inside the greenhouse, let's hope. So anyhow, I've got that spread out. Now all I need to do is paint, and I'll put the roof on and bring gravel in and put the windows and doors on, and we'll be done. So I'm just about ready to paint here. Actually, I decided to get a few more sticks of 2x6 and build a little bit of an overhang all the way around. Of course, they're a little crooked, as lumber is known to be, so I've got to put some blocking in on this side yet. I already did that on this side, just some 2x4s to kind of straighten out the hang, and so I'll put some in at the top there. So that dilapidated garden will be teeming with life here in a few months. And I'm way up here on the top of the greenhouse, and I've got the blocking installed. I don't think I need any on the sides. Those pieces are much straighter, hopefully. If I need it, I can add it later, I guess. But I think I'm ready to paint for sure, for real now. Okay, now I'm ready to paint, and I'm using this Amazon Yatic paint sprayer. Got the paint in there. It's going to be green. Go figure. Greenhouse painted green. And hopefully it works. I've thinned it a little bit with water. It's a latex paint, so hopefully we got a good spray here. We'll find out. So far the paint sprayer is working pretty well. On 1 cup of paint, I got a coat on this side and all of that side. So it seems to conserve paint pretty well. And 1 gallon did almost the whole greenhouse. I got it nicely coated on the outside. I'll be chopping those unpainted parts off, of course. Little bit on the inside yet to do. I think I might switch to some of the extra paint I have laying around in the garage for the inside. I have to see what colors I have of just generic paint laying around. But I think I might have a lighter green. So anyhow, that sprayer did a really nice job very quickly. This was about an hour of work, believe it or not, with that sprayer. It's pretty awesome. So Bradley and I yesterday got some of the rocks moved inside the greenhouse, but I'm going to keep working on that. I found my reciprocating saw. It was over at the bus or in the pavilion. I'm going to chop these top posts off. I'll be putting the roofing panels on and the door, and probably getting some of these windows put in here today. If not today, I'll be finishing this up this weekend. So getting pretty close. The only thing I might not finish this weekend is I'm going to run a electrical line and water line over from the garage. That's going to come in this corner here. I'm just going to trench it through the driveway stone and plastic conduit over to that corner of the garage over there, and I'll be tying into the circuit that's feeding those lights, the security lights. I'm also planning on mounting a security light up here for the driveway, and then of course the fan will be powered, and I'm going to use a simple light fixture in the middle with a pull string for light inside the garage or inside the greenhouse at night. Alright, so I'm breaking a serious sweat here. Shoveling rocks is not easy, so getting at it though. I've been using the wheelbarrow to dump the rocks where I want them in here, so there's just no good way to have this load dumped at this stage to make it convenient. The truck was a little too wide to avoid having a widespread pile, and I didn't want to try to make the driver dump half the load on the driveway and half the load over here. You know, it's just too complicated. So good exercise though. This whole thing's been good exercise. So I'm continuing to dig these rocks. A little out of breath, so I paused to take a little video clip here. It's hard work. That wheelbarrow sucks really bad. Don't buy that one. Junk. It's really wobbly. I'll have to get a better wheelbarrow, maybe a two-wheeled one, but anyhow, it should last for the rest of this job anyway. So making progress, probably 3 or 4 more loads from the wheelbarrow, and I should have most of that on that side sort of shifted up this way and have the level where I want it inside the greenhouse. So it might be about, I'm guessing 4 more, maybe 5 more wheelbarrow loads. And I've got most of the rocks scooted over to build the little landing here. Got some blocks in line. I'm going to rake this smooth, put some more rock inside, rake it smooth, and then I'll be done with this really tough work of moving rocks around. Here's the final product of the gravel. Got that all sectioned off, sloped up. Greenhouse is fairly level in the floor here. Not perfect, but close. Close enough. So next I'm going to chop off the tops and put the ceiling on. So what I'm going to do now is use the Porter cable sawzall here to cut these 4x4s off at the roof line. Alright, so that's one down. I cut it at a slight angle. There's the second one lopped off. So that one ended up right over the washer of the bolt there. So one more little bit to do over there to even things out. And there's the last one right there. I think what I'm going to do now is I've got another gallon of the green paint. I think I'm going to get a brush and do touch-up painting on the tops here and anywhere like the wall where I ran out of paint before. No sense not having this look good. What I'm doing now is actually putting up the polycarbonate ceiling or roof using these ripple strips and tech screws with the washers. Hopefully this will go pretty quick. It's fairly simple. So I didn't film much of this, but I just put the roof on. These ripple panels are pretty much overpriced, kind of cheap in their construction, 30 bucks a piece, and I'm just a little bit short on one end. It covers the inside, but I need to put another panel on the far side here to reach the eave. But these are almost all screwed down except for that last row. The roof is in. Now I can start adding windows and getting the door put in place. And then I'll be ready to wire the fan and put a light in, and maybe a water line. I'm not sure yet. I got to think about that. I may want to have a sink on the outside for washing hands, washing tools, washing veggies, etc. Maybe with a 5-gallon bucket it drains into. So anyhow, that's a thought. What I'm doing right now is building window keepers. I've cut 30 some pieces of wood 4 inches wide. These are strips left over from cutting the cross braces that the windows go into, but then drilling a single hole in the center. These will be kind of like toggles. They'll be able to go this way or that way, and hold the windows in or let you remove the windows. I don't intend to remove windows. I'm going to caulk them, but I want it to be easy enough if I have to. I've also drilled some of these out to these scraps from the window frames. I don't know if you saw earlier, but I held the windows in by creating an L-shaped profile from this wood. These actually were separators from Lowe's, from their lumber yard that I cut down. They were free, so pressure treated. And what I'm doing here is making it so that on the edges where the 4x4s are, I can hold the window in like that on each side. So anyhow, I'm ready to go get bus windows and start putting them in. There's the first window in the frame. I had to gently tap it with the block of wood up against the corner. You can see a little gap here. There will be clear caulk from the outside that I put on this when I'm done. But, you know, just a little out of square, so some of these are going to be snug fit. Alright, so the first row of windows is put in place with the blocking, and it's already getting hot in here. This is going to work very well, especially after I caulk. I think I'll probably need to install that fan this evening, otherwise I won't be able to get in here. It'll probably be suffocating. So anyway, I'm going to put the second row in down here, and then I'll move on to the next wall, of course. So there's the first wall done with windows. I am drenched with sweat already. This is definitely going to be a hothouse. And that's the second wall of windows. One more to go. I've got that loose piece there because I need another sheet to finish, so the wind's kicking it up a bit. So I need to go get another sheet to finish the roof. But I was weighing it down with that block, but the wind was pretty strong there. So anyhow, I'm going to get started on this other wall here, and then I'll be done with windows. Just like that, all the windows are put in. And we'll walk around here. I don't think I'm going to paint them. I'll leave the doors silver, and as the paint wears, the frames will all be aluminum silver colored as well. So not worried about it. And I am going to pressure wash all the juniper mess off these windows and dust. And I expect to get some silicone, clear silicone caulk, or clear, probably quad OSI caulk, and caulk the beads around the windows here to close the air gaps up against the wood. So, but they're all in. It was getting quite warm inside there, and I feel good about that. All that's left is putting the door on and then running electricity in the fan. I decided just to stick with a garden hose from the garage for water for now. If I change my mind, I can always run a PEX line out here for plumbing. What I'm doing right now is putting the hinge on the door, or hinges on the door. Two of them are going to have bolts. These two are going to be just supplemental with screws. So these bottom and top will have lags for extra strength, but figured some in the middle wouldn't hurt either. And we've got the door mounted here. That rusty handle will get painted at some point. That's just a bar holder basically for trailer stake side, but it works as a door handle. So probably paint that black, take it off and clean it up and paint it. But anyway, the door's mounted. Had to trim the edges a little bit. I'll have to do some touch-up painting, but in essence this greenhouse is built. Do a quick walk around here. We've got one more ceiling panel to put on. Debating, my son wants me to paint the window frames. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I'm also going to put a gutter on the end. But at this point it's built, and all I have to do now is wire up the fan and it's done. So I won't bore you with those details. So at this point I've got the fan mounted and I'm testing it with just an extension cord here. It's actually nice and quiet. Hopefully it lasts a good long time. I'm going to wire Romex from the garage through the driveway gravel. I got to dig a little bit of a trench. I'm debating on whether I'm putting that in plastic conduit. Probably wise to do that. And I'll bring it in through this corner. There's going to be an outdoor outlet on the other side of the wall there. And then I'm going to bring the power up to the fan with another outlet, and also I'm going to have a light wired in the center that's going to have a switch right over here, so or maybe right here on this other side. But anyhow, final touches here, but I'm basically calling this project done. Okay, so it was a hard day of work, but I got the greenhouse finished. Ran the hose over it to get all the dust off it. And I think what I'm going to do later is paint the panels a beige color to match the shed in our house. It's a little too green. Do some trim paint. Need to run that electrical line and add a piece to the roof, but I'm basically calling this one done.